With the president dropping out of the campaign, there are now questions around what happens next at the convention.
Delegates have already been awarded to President Joe Biden, making him the presumptive nominee. Joining us now is former Speaker of the Michigan House of Representatives, Republican Tom Leonard. He now works at Plunkett Cooney Law Firm as the firm's government relations leader. Thank you so much for being here, Tom.
Thank you for having me. Proud to be here.
Yeah, so, this is a really unique situation that we're seeing unfold before us. Explain first how this delegate system works.
Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion. Many people believe that Joe Biden was the Democratic nominee for president. He was the presumptive nominee. What happens is these candidates, they travel the country, they go state to state, and what they do is they accumulate delegates. And then these delegates, they show up at their party's convention, and that's when they officially nominate that person to be their nominee. So technically, Joe Biden was not the nominee yet.
The official nominee.
The official nominee, yeah. Correct.
Okay. So since it hasn't happened yet, and now we also have this big shakeup, how does the process work from here?
So now that he is officially out of the race, those 4,000 some odd delegates are free to do whatever they want heading into that August convention. So the question is, who will they nominate? Now, that's essentially going to be Vice President Harris. Nobody else is running. She's got the endorsement. She's got the support. So now the question is, when will they officially nominate her? They were set on doing a virtual convention the first week of August. They will officially decide on Wednesday with their rules committee as to whether or not they're going to officially do that the first week of August or actually at the convention. But the nominee is likely going to be Vice President Kamala Harris.
Likely to be. But is there a scenario that she might not appear on some states' ballots?
Most legal experts say that is not the case. There are 3 states in particular. You have Nevada, you have Georgia, and you have Wisconsin. They have rules that say that if the nominee were to die, that is the only way that they can replace the person on the ballot. However, again, Joe Biden was never the nominee. So legally, that would not hold weight if it's challenged. She is going to be placed on those ballots.
Okay, so is there any kind of scenario or any possibility where there could just randomly be another name that is thrown out there after the convention?
Well, under Democratic rules, there cannot be a draft campaign. So somebody would actually have to step up and say, I'm willing to run. At that point, or at this point, no other Democratic nominee has stepped up. So it looks like it's going to be Kamala Harris. If somebody steps up, they would have to get the signatures of 300 delegates to run. But again, it's a tall task. All the endorsements seem to be going Kamala Harris's way at this point.
Have we ever seen this happen before in American history? I mean, what are we, a week and a half out from the convention?
Yeah, no. I mean, the closest thing we have seen is the 60s with Lyndon B. Johnson, but he got out in March. I mean, we are talking days before the convention. I mean, Joe Biden was at the very end of the deadline. It had to be done this weekend if somebody else was going to step up and run. Obviously, that happened, and we are going to have a new Democratic candidate for president.
Now, if you could just walk us through the process of presidential delegates for people who may not be familiar, the weight that they carry and how this could have a major impact on what happens moving forward.
Oh, it's a lot. I mean, think about this. Joe Biden accumulated 14 million votes as he was running in this Democratic primary, and 4,000 delegates are who's going to decide. So what happens is, again, these candidates, they go state to state, they win that state, and then the states have their local state conventions, and they select who the delegates are going to be to go to national convention and officially select who that nominee for president is going to be.
So do you think this is just sort of a by default scenario, considering the time constraints?
I think the time constraints, but also finances. You have to remember, Joe Biden had over $94 million in his campaign coffers. And legally, the only candidate that could come in, step in, put their name on that candidate committee, and essentially inherit that $94 million to run a campaign was Kamala Harris, because she was his running mate. So, it just makes the most sense that the one that could actually step in and inherit that money would be the nominee.
Yeah, as someone who's watched government very closely and just studied all of this, how does it feel for you just to see that we're seeing so many different historical things happening that we've never seen before?
Oh my goodness, unprecedented times. I mean, this is a campaign cycle like we have never seen. I mean, think about this. Just 10 days earlier, a major nominee for president was almost assassinated. I mean, was shot by a bullet, and now 10 days later, his opponent is stepping down. I mean, these are unprecedented times, and as I always tell people, 24 hours is an eternity in politics. We've got 3.5 months to go. There's no telling what might happen over the months ahead.
Yeah, at this rate, there's absolutely no telling.
That's right.
Absolutely not. It's a whole new game at this point.
All right. Well, Tom Leonard, former Speaker of the Michigan House of Representatives, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.